This year I designed a mermaid tail stocking because I thought it was a really fun and unique idea and just like a different twist on a traditional Christmas item. So this is what it looks like. I think it's pretty cute. And it's actually a really simple make as long as you know how to sew curves. If you can sew curves, you can sew this stocking. The pattern I designed, I put up for free on my website. I'm linking to it in the description so you can go get your free copy. It's a PDF pattern, so you just need to print it and tape it and then cut it out and it's ready to go. There's also written instructions there if you would prefer to follow that. So with all of that being said, here's how you make the stocking. The first thing that you'll want to do is pre-wash and iron your fabric. Fabric types are all listed on my website, which I have linked in the description. Once you have your fabric pre-washed and ironed, you can go ahead and cut out your pattern pieces. When you're ready to start assembling, take one tail piece and lay it on top of one body piece with right sides together. Make sure notches are aligned. Pin it in place and take it to the sewing machine. Sew the seam with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Repeat with the other tail piece and body piece. Iron the seam allowance with all of it going down towards the tail. Trim the seam allowance down to about 1/4 inch. Lay one mermaid tail on top of the other one, right sides together. Line up all the edges and pin it together everywhere except for the top. Take it to your sewing machine and sew all the way around it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure to leave the top open, do not sew that part. Snip a V into the very bottom of the mermaid tail. Get as close as you can to the stitching without clipping through it. Trim the seam allowance of the mermaid tail down to about 1/4 inch all the way around. Turn the mermaid tail completely right side out. Iron it down so that it'll keep its shape. Take the cuff piece and fold it in half with short ends meeting. Sew down that side with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Trim the seam allowance down to 1/4 inch. Now you'll need to find the quarter points of the cuff. So fold it in half with long ends meeting, raw edges together with right sides out. Find the seam that you just sewed and mark it with a pin or a clip. Then find the spot just opposite of your seam, mark that with a pin, and then match your seam to its opposite side, and then mark the points between those. Find quarter points of the mermaid tail in the same way. Take the tab piece and fold it in half with sides together, long ends meeting. Pin it in place and sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Using a safety pin or a loop turner, turn the tab piece right side out. Iron the tab piece down with the seam on the back side. Fold the tab piece in half with short ends meeting and put it inside the mermaid tail stocking. You'll want to put this on the seam of the mermaid tail that has the longer curve. Pin it in place. Take the cuff piece and put it inside the mermaid tail stocking. Line up quarter points. You'll probably want to make sure seams line up with seams and pin it all together. Your tab piece is now sandwiched between the cuff and the mermaid tail. Take it to the sewing machine and sew it with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure you go over the tab piece very slowly. It'll be very thick in your machine and you'll need to be careful with that. I used the hand wheel through this part for mine. Pull the cuff piece out of the mermaid tail stocking and fold it down on the outside. Now you'll want to hang it up over your fireplace or wherever else you put your stockings. It's done. And that's how you make a mermaid tail stocking. I really hope that you enjoy these and I hope your little ones do too, or your grandkids, whoever you're making them for. Thanks so much for watching and I'll catch you in the next video.